What's up, guys? Welcome to Fed by Fire. I'm Christian Whitlow. My lighting's a little messed up tonight. I messed up my ring light while we were moving, but tonight I want to talk about something in the headlines and a case we've been following extensively. So, Chud the Builder is officially out of jail after spending nearly 3 months in custody following the May 13th shooting outside of the Montgomery County Courthouse in Clarksville, Tennessee. Dalton Etherly has posted bond and is now a free man. And while this case continues, and I want to talk about this with some respect, even though, in my opinion, he doesn't deserve much of it. But these are very serious allegations here, and this is also a serious legal process that still has to play out. I'm not here to convict him or acquit him in any way. We're just going to state the facts, talk about what we know, how we got here, and what the investigators have alleged, what his defense is saying, and what I think this period between now and his trial could mean for him. So Etherly is known online as Chud the Builder. He is facing charges including attempted murder, employing a firearm during the commission of a dangerous felony, aggravated assault, reckless endangerment with a deadly weapon, and his bond was ultimately set at $1 million. After spending nearly 3 months in jail, he has been released on August 10th. Now, let's go back to May 13th because this is where the case starts. According to investigators, Etherly was involved in a confrontation with Joshua Fox at Millennium Plaza outside the Montgomery County Court Center. The confrontation started verbally, and according to testimony presented at the bond hearing, Etherly approached Fox while holding a selfie stick. Investigators said Etherly eventually walked away, but Fox then approached him and the situation then escalated. Surveillance cameras captured the confrontation, and investigators testified that the footage showed Etherly reaching towards his jacket before the shooting. Etherly's defense has disputed aspects of that interpretation. Etherly has maintained that he acted in self-defense and has said that he was attacked and had to defend himself. And this is where I want to slow down. Not literally pause the video, but slow down the way that we're thinking about this. Because I'm not going to justify what happened whatsoever. In my mind, when you go looking for trouble, you are going to find it. I want to make that crystal clear. I'm not saying that because somebody gets in an argument, anything that happens afterwards is automatically justified. I'm not saying that because somebody has a controversial internet personality that they're automatically entitled to pull a weapon. I'm not saying that because somebody was allegedly attacked, every action took afterward was legally justified. That's not my position. That the evidence has to establish what happened. The court has to determine whether the law applies to those facts. But I also believe in something else. If you spend your life, like I just said, looking for trouble, you will eventually find it. And that's not just something I'm saying about Chud. That's something I believe that deeply applies to everybody. If your entire career is built around confrontation, provoking people, and pushing buttons, getting reactions, walking up to strangers, and turning conflict into content, eventually you're going to run into somebody who doesn't play them type of games and react the way that you expected them to react. And when that happens, the consequences can be completely different from anything you thought you were filming. You can't edit real life situations. You can't cut out the 5 seconds that went wrong. You can't rewind that moment. And that's something Chud the Builder is having to find out firsthand. You definitely can't guarantee everybody you're confronting is going to understand that you're just trying to make content. That's why I can believe somebody deserves due process while also saying they need to take accountability for the environment they create around themselves. Those aren't contradictory positions. I can say, all right, let the evidence speak, while also saying maybe constantly looking for confrontation isn't the smartest way to live. Those two things can exist at the same time. And that's why I think there's a Tennessee case worth putting beside this, not because the cases are identical, but because they are absolutely not, because it demonstrates while a self defense claim doesn't automatically answer every legal question. So in the state of Tennessee versus Joshua W. Chambers, the defendant claimed he acted in self-defense in a shooting that resulted in the death of Richard Gabal. Chambers was originally indicted for first-degree premeditated murder and a firearm offense. His defense argued self-defense, but when the case went to trial, the jury ultimately convicted him of second-degree murder. The firearm count did not result in a verdict from that jury. Chambers was later sentenced to 18 years in prison. Now, I'm not saying Chud is Joshua Chambers. I'm not saying Chud is going to get 18 years. I'm saying the facts are the same. Because they're not. One case involved a death, while the Chud case involves an alleged shooting in which the person prosecutors say was shot but ultimately survived. Different facts, different circumstances, different evidence, different charges, and potentially a completely different outcome. But the comparison illustrates something important. Self-defense doesn't automatically end the conversation. The circumstances surrounding the shooting matter. What happened immediately beforehand matters. Who initiated what matters. What somebody reasonably believed at the time matters. The evidence matters. And ultimately, if the case goes before a jury, the jury is going to have to decide what the evidence proves. I think that's why everybody's watching this and needs to be careful about declaring a winner right now, because we don't know the verdict. We have allegations. We have investigators describing evidence. We have surveillance footage that apparently captured portions of the confrontation, and that we have physical evidence and we have injuries. We also have a defendant who says he acted in self-defense. Those things are going to have to be tested through the legal process. And according to investigators who testified at the bond hearing, 7 shell casings were recovered at the scene and were connected to the same firearm. Etherly was wounded in the arm, while Fox was shot and required emergency medical treatment and surgery. So whatever ultimately happened, this wasn't some harmless confrontation. People were physically injured. A firearm was discharged multiple times outside of a courthouse where people were present. And that's the bottom line. We'll be keeping up with this case as it goes on. All I'm going to say is what Chud does with his life and his freedom is ultimately up to him. He's got a big future ahead of him, but I don't know if I would want to go down in history as being him. As always, we'll be keeping up with these cases, breaking down headlines. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.